Hey guys, Stock Saturday, and it's a slightly red week for me, down about 3%, excluding another £2,000 that I've added, which you can probably guess where that's gone again. So compared to the market, that is a bit worse. S&P down 0.07% after a sort of drop on Friday and then a sort of bit of a flourish towards the end. I'm not really sure entirely what caused that, but yeah, fair enough. Nasdaq sort of slightly worse off, 0.71%. Did again have a sort of fairly steep drop on Friday. Sort of it's a bit of economic news, but nothing that I saw too much to get worried about. Um, and yeah, it's sort of relatively broad. A lot of the stocks have dropped a little. Stellantis, Broadcom, TSMC all sort of dropping a little. And then crypto took a little bit of a hit as well. So yeah, not too bad. Gold and silver sort of holding up reasonably well, or the stocks are, considering sort of the prices all over the shop. We've seen copper prices coming down a little. This has sort of had a small knock to KGHM, being sort of very heavy copper. Silver as well, although silver is sort of up and down all over the place. Still above $30 at the moment, which is very, very good. This is just sort of 1 month's production data for KGHM, so nothing too much to see, but I always like to keep up to date because it's more recent than the most sort of recent quarterly results. And April has seen a very small increase in copper production, but a decline in silver production from last year. They've had a bit of sort of maintenance and bits that we noted in the quarterly results, and yeah, not looking too bad. Still a good number sort of expected for the year. So really like KGHM sort of being similar mix really to Southern Copper, basically all copper and silver, but KGHM have a slightly higher silver component of that mix. So yeah, very nice. Earnings as well. I didn't cover the Q1 REITs, American Tower and Vici, when they came out because they're sort of smaller positions for me. So I thought I would come back to them at the end, and still sort of considering at some point during these rocky times whether to sell them and maybe go put that money into something like Riot or potentially gold miners, depending on what happens. Because I do see the REITs as my sort of more steady holdings for after the end of this bull market when I'm in sort of retirement mode. So just looking at some of their numbers, sort of pretty good across the board, really. Smaller growth in revenue than you'd like to see. This is total revenue growth, so that includes, dilution as well. It's not sort of, they don't break down like revenue per share, but they do sort of net income. It will sort of generally scroll past that and get to adjusted funds from operations. So that's up 10%, but up 9.8% on a per share basis. They have noticed that this was due to sort of some issues in Q1 last year, writing off some of the or sale of Mexico, that resulted in a loss of $80 million. So that sort of goes into the numbers and makes it look poor. You've also got 127 million in FX gains compared to 84 million loss in FX in Q1 2023. So it's kind of juiced by that. You really want to sort of see the total year forecast for 2024. Dividend is 162, 3.8% year-on-year growth. Nothing sort of huge. And yeah, debt is still enormous. I don't like to see this much debt, but it's a big mature REIT, so you're going to get a hell of a lot. 40 billion nearly in debt and 2.4 billion in cash. So as they say, 5 times leverage ratio. That is a hell of a lot. But there you go. 2024 outlook. So for the full year, They're looking at between $10.30 and $10.53 adjusted funds from operations, 5.6% up on the midpoint of growth last year. So that's pretty good, decent growth, and yeah, as I say, something that I will sort of hopefully look to build up again once I'm out of crypto and gold and silver, sort of quite as heavy as I am. So yeah, their outlook for capex is sort of reasonably good, sort of around 800 million. The numbers are always crazy for a sort of mature REIT of this size. You know, of that 800 million in capex, sort of discretionary capex. This includes the construction of 2,500 to 3,500 communication sites globally, 800 in India, so that's the sort of growth part of that, and $450 million of development into data centers. So they're sort of partially turning into digital realty. But yeah, good amount of growth. Moving on to Vici. Obviously, there's no end in people wanting to go to Vegas and potentially blow all their money. The gaming sort of properties and other properties is unchanged. They haven't really sort of opened anything new for a little while. Obviously, they've got enormous sites, so yeah, these deals tend to sort of be few and far between, but very large when they happen. And their AFFO is pretty steady, 54 cents in Q2 2023, 54 cents, 55 cents, and 56 cents in Q1 of this year. So all looking very steady. Even the sort of net income is somewhat steady compared to some other REITs, and net income is sort of all over the place with REITs. So I thought that was pretty good. EBITDA and everything. Again, never really look at EBITDA too much. Total debt 17 billion against 500 million in cash. Again, massive. Not what I would like ideally, but yeah, that is the way. 5.4 times leverage ratio, which is a lot, but they seem pretty secure. You know, 100% occupancy rate. It's always 100%. Because they are giant tenants, 41.5 year weighted average lease. So yeah, that's good. So balance sheet has barely changed, which is kind of good, really. That's what we want from a real estate investment trust, sort of steady growth and nothing sort of jumping out at you. Just sort of looking at what has changed. Yeah, something that has changed is shares outstanding. If they're not sort of building tremendously, wasn't quite sure why this has gone up so much. The bulk of it has sort of happened in between Q3 and Q4. They were building out their non-Vegas sort of other properties, the bowling centres and all sorts, and non-Vegas casinos. So yeah, that's interesting. But I mean, 6 million shares in the last quarter. You know, when they haven't really seemed to have built anything. So yeah, it's a shame to always be getting that sort of that dilution. It's obviously, you know, on a billion shares. It's not massive, but 6 million shares is, you know, is a bit of money. But overall, very happy, and yeah, we'll be sort of adding to them, similar to American Tower, likely sort of into next year if we start selling out of crypto. So we'll see. Just an interesting article I saw as well from India, highlighting my sort of bullishness on both copper and silver. A desert sort of area in India, sort of on the border, it looks like, of Pakistan, close to the border of Pakistan. Basically completely uninhabited land. They're building a new energy park 5 times bigger than Paris. So that is the world's largest sort of renewable energy site. This is Adani Green Energy Limited. So looks like they are, well, the family is coal sort of energy focused. That is where they've made their money, and they're now sort of looking to go green. This is 200 square miles. of barren landscape, and looks to be completed by 2029. So pretty good. It seems crazy that 200 square miles of sort of renewables covers 16 million homes. That's 1% of India. So you need lots more of these, it seems, or carry on with the coal. I think it said they're looking to go net zero by 2070, which is obviously very late, but they want to be 50-50, 50-50 renewables by 2030, so 6 years away. At the moment, they're 70% coal, so that's not ideal. But yeah, copper, silver, lots of other things, all looking good. Economic news wise, there wasn't a huge amount this week. We had a little bit of sort of GDP data and sort of PCE prices and bits and pieces. That's outdated sort of Q1 news. We had the nationwide house price index for May up 0.4% and 1.3% for the year. So still not seeing the effects of house price drops from the interest rates, which I thought we would be getting. Provisional inflation data on Friday for the EU, slightly up, but not ideal, 2.9% on core CPI. That was expected to stay flat from last month, so not good. And the regular CPI up 2.6%, was expected to be up to 2.5%. So not great. And then you had the PCE data from the US, which is sort of the Fed's preferred measure. Does come out later than the sort of headline CPI, but that was pretty much in line. Core and headline was sort of pretty much in line, except the monthly core PCE, which was slightly lower. Expected to be sort of 0.3%, same as the previous month, and that was 0.2%. So yeah, people seem to sort of go wild on this. I mean, it's barely different to the expectations, but yeah, whether people are sort of getting into rate cuts and all manner of things for the dollar, I think people just seem to get worked up. Whether that was sort of the part of the rally towards the end of the day, I don't really know, but yeah. So portfolio wise, as you say, did see a bit of a knock on the crypto miners. CleanSpark back down to sort of $16, still sort of perfectly fine for me. I think we could get another month of crypto sort of chopping around, and I would expect if it doesn't really go anywhere, that may mean the miners come down a bit, because I think the investors in the miners are maybe a little bit more emotional than sort of people just holding crypto itself, but we'll have to see. Riot did come down below $10 again, so I'm it's around my buy price, ever so slightly in the red. Sort of considering buying a little, but I have been sort of buying in the Interactive Brokers account, or not Riot, but I'll come to that. Gold and silver stocks are looking pretty good, to be honest, considering the metal itself is very volatile at the moment. Silver looking really good. So Coeur Mining are doing pretty well, 575. Fortuna doing very well because they are doing buybacks, I guess, and they are sort of everything is built and they're very profitable now. Whereas Equinox Gold are sort of ramping up, and they sort of haven't had a last quarterly results didn't look particularly positive, and I think, as I say, people who don't look into it in detail just think, oh, Equinox aren't even making money at $2,300, $2,400, but obviously that was Q1. The price wasn't really that high even at the end of Q1. It was sort of most of Q1 still at around $2,000. So, yeah, I think we really need Q3. Unfortunately, it's not even going to be Q2 because the Greenstone mine wasn't up and running yet. So I think sort of July to September as long as prices stay where they are or increase, should be the month to the quarter to watch. So in I guess mid-November is a long while to wait, but yeah, that is when we should start to see positive Equinox results. But yeah, I think people should start to be pricing that in beforehand. You probably see news articles suggesting the results are going to be really good, and sort of analysts hopefully focusing on it. So we'll see. And then, yeah, small REIT positions, not really moved a huge amount. On the ISA Interactive Brokers side, Pan American, $22, still looking pretty good. It's below my average, but yeah, I haven't really averaged down on that at all. And KGHM, as I say, coming back to the low 150s, but still very nice, 30% green, and looking long-term bullish. So on the invest side, not a lot happening with Chinese tech as normal. I shall skip past that. On the options, Coeur Mining sort of looking really nice now, nearly 400% green. Equinox has come down a bit, gone into the red. I have added a little, sort of the January 2026 options still look very, very cheap to me compared to where I think they could get to. And Clean Spark is sort of come down slightly. That was sort of hovering around the 9s and 10,000s, and yeah, haven't added any for a good while now. Haven't added any to Himax, but it's looking reasonably good. I think we need sort of another. You don't really get too much news in between the quarterly results, so I think that just needs another quarterly results really. Fortuna though, with this strong price, is looking really good, 300% in the green now. These actually are all end of January 2025 options, so this is more of a short-term bet. That's why it's kind of smaller, and I sort of always had less conviction on Fortuna really, because their silver mines are pretty much stopping, and yeah, it just didn't look sort of quite as good, not as compelling as Equinox. Riot, so I haven't added, but I'm getting very tempted to add. It's sort of gone into the red, but yeah, still a small position. But a new position has sort of piqued my interest. Core Scientific. I'm a bit late to the game. This has been sort of rising incredibly since they come out of bankruptcy. So they're one of the largest crypto miners in the world, did go bankrupt and have now sort of come out of bankruptcy, and they sort of have a ton of potential dilution coming online, but that means if they get to a certain price, because they have a load of its convertible debt sort of warrants basically, so if the price doesn't rise, Bitcoin price doesn't rise or anything, then they have a huge amount of debt to pay off and they could be struggling, and you know, that wouldn't be good for anyone. But assuming the Bitcoin price rises as we think, the share price rises, and then that debt will be converted into shares. So then they won't have any debt, but there will be a lot of dilution. But taking all that into account, it does look sort of rather attractive, potentially slightly more attractive than Riot. So I've bought a little, and I'm sort of prepared to buy more. Probably will be taking this slowly. I've added sort of £2,000, so I've got just about £3,000 sitting there, but I don't want to be absolutely piling in. I am kind of running my cash amount somewhat dry. I don't have too much more to add, but we'll see. So yeah, kind of looking at Core Scientific, potentially Riot, and still even more Equinox, I think, if it's going to come down. I think, as I say, Q3 results onwards, you know, if these are January 2026 options, so I'll have Q3 and 4 this year, and then Q1, 2, and 3 results. You won't get the Q4 results in time for January 2026, but I'm sure it'll be being talked about, and you'll get the idea really from Q1, 2, and 3, hopefully. So yeah, I think that's a hell of a lot of time to run and for gold price to run. So we'll see with those and what I end up buying. So yeah, leave your thoughts in comments below and like and subscribe. See you soon.